Hey, what's up? It's Field Preston Hiefield. Thanks so much for listening, liking, and subscribing on YouTube, Substack, Apple, and Spotify. It's here, baby. College football season is pretty much here. We are in late August. I am recording this on August 23rd, 2026, here in the great state of Oregon, Portland, Oregon, USA, as my friend Kevin Calabro would say. And it's basically time. Week 0 starts in less than a week. We'll have TCU, UNC, and Dublin. Bill Belichick be roaming the sidelines at Aviva Stadium. I was there last summer. We will have NC State, Virginia. That's a great quarterback matchup. Not a good one, a great one. CJ Bailey against Bo Perbula. Virginia, a really good team a year ago. Nearly won the ACC title. Played in that game, lost to Darian Mensah. Coming up on this pod, I'm going to give you my top 12. That is exactly what we're going to do here. And I'm going to try to make it quicker. Hope I don't take forever. Obviously, it can be a little long-winded on this stuff, but I'm going to try to make it as kind of as quick as I can. In the sense, if I won't go on for an hour. I'll give you like 15 or 20 minutes of this, so you don't have to, I guess, sift through it to get to where you want to go. So here we go. Let's do it. Number one, the preseason number one team for the field is your defending national champion Indiana Hoosiers. This is a really easy one for me. I know they lost Mendoza, the Heisman winner. I know they lost Aiden Fisher, my favorite linebacker in the sport last year. D'Angelo Pons, arguably the best DB in the sport last year. Him and Caleb Downs. They lost a ton of dudes. Elijah Surratt, Omar Cooper Jr. They bring back Charlie Becker, who is now officially handsomely paid. Shout out to him going from walk-on to $2 or $3 million this year, I think. That's what we call a glow-up, okay? And he was a great player, obviously, throughout last year. Iced the Big Ten title game against Ohio State. Caught a touchdown against Alabama in the Rose Bowl. So they bring him in. They bring in Josh Hoover. Here's where I'm at with Indiana and the reason I like them so much. Is Kurt Cignetti still there? Yes. Is Bryant Haynes, the DC, still there? Yes. Is Mike Shanahan, the OC, no relation? Did play at Pitt, though, but no relation to Kyle or Mike. Is he still there? Yes. So you have incredible continuity at the coaching staff level. That means a ton. There is so much newness. Texas, new DC. Ole Miss, new coaching staff, new OC. Charlie Weiss Jr. gone to LSU. Oregon, 2 new coordinators. Ohio State, new coordinators. Like, there's so much newness every year, and it doesn't mean you can't win the national title. Obviously, you still can. That happens. But the fact that they have that togetherness on the coaching staff, I think, means a ton for this Indiana program. And it obviously all starts with Sig. And his recipe at the quarterback spot, man, is production. When he is asked about how do you choose a quarterback, because let's get this straight, he chose Josh Hoover, okay? There were a ton of quarterbacks, as always, in the transfer portal last year. He chose Josh Hoover, not the other way around. A lot of these kids wanted to go to Indiana to get coached by Sig, okay? So there are coaching dominoes that happen in the NFL and in college football when one job gets taken. So it's like, all right, the best job just got taken, so all of the list of candidates who are open are like, all right, let me try to get the next best job, right? That's what happens with the transfer portal in college football now. Indiana, all right, we chose our quarterback Hoover. Now Sam Levitt's like, all right, let me tour Tennessee. Let me tour LSU. Let me tour all these other schools. That's kind of how it goes. Sig chose Hoover. That's one hell of a compliment to Josh Hoover. I've seen him play in person a couple times. Really productive guy, 23, fifth-year senior. That is the formula for Sig. He wants production. He wants maturity. He wants you to be in college for 4 or 5 years. And he has that exactly in Hoover. Hoover's also very mobile. In Sig's words, he committed too many turnovers at TCU. His TD ratio was something in like the 90 to 40 range. So Sig wants that cleaned up a little bit, but he's mobile. He's experienced. He's a fifth-year guy. That's exactly what you want if you're Coach Sig. Turbo Richard in at running back. Kalen Black and Roman Hemby, really good running backs last year. Saw them in person in West Lafayette. Really, really good. They'll be tough to replace. They looked, I think it was Black who's playing for the Niners. He looked really good in a preseason game the other night. Nick Marsh from Michigan State. I think it was him who pulled up in gold cleats to camp, and Sig told him to go take a hike and put on new team-issued cleats and not his own gold cleats. I love that. No one is bigger than the team under Kurt Signetti. That is why they are so famously great as a team playing team ball. So you have the coordinators, and then here's the other part. I love the coordinators, and I love the D-line. Okay? Mario Landino, Tyreek Tucker, both back from last year's team. The news that Colorado judge passed the 5th year, the 5x5, and again, that some people are saying, okay, this is getting rescinded in certain areas. It's all confusing. We have NFL players coming back. Like, there might be an NFL tight end coming back to play college football at LSU this year. It's all confusing, okay? But at the moment, if it holds true, and Kellen Wyatt and Stephen Daly are actually back on the D-line in Bloomington this year, that's by a mile the best D-line in the sport, given production last year and what actually happened on the actual football field last year and who's returning. When they held Alabama, and it was not a good rushing team from Alabama last year, almost dead last in the SEC, 15 out of 16. But when they outrushed Alabama 224 to 21-ish in the Rose Bowl, beat them 38-3 by 5 scores. And then, a Miami team that had ran the ball really well, they kind of stuffed it. Ohio State needed to run the ball late in the Big Ten title game in the low red, couldn't do it. That's the best D-line in the sport, man. Not close. And they bring all 4 of those guys back. That's absurd. So that's why I like them. Best D-line in the sport and the coaching continuity. I think that's going to carry Indiana a long way. And I don't understand why they didn't get more love in the AP preseason, and I really don't understand. I'll get to them in a little bit. Ohio State's a good team. Obviously, talent-wise, every year is capable of winning the national title. I don't know why they're ranked number 1. It's not that they couldn't become number 1. It's not that they don't have the potential to win the title. They have Jeremiah Smith and Bo Jackson and Julian Sayin and Chris Henry Jr. and Brandon Ennis and all this talent on offense. But that was a poor offensive team in the biggest games last year. 10 points in the Big Ten title game, 14 points with a pick 6 against Miami. Those are their last 2 games, right? They averaged 12 points a game through a pick 6 against Miami. Like, when it comes to playing truly elite defenses, like, Ohio State's got a long way to go on offense. And they just lost eight players on defense, 8 starters. So we'll get to them in a second. My number 2 team, the Oregon Ducks. Veteran team, veteran nucleus, outrageous skill. Jordan Davison, De'Aaron Hill Jr. at the running back spot. So much juice there. Jordan Davison is a kind of a young Jay Stu. De'Aaron Hill brings the juice. Evan Stewart, DeCorian Moore, Jeremiah McClellan, maybe the best trio of receivers in the country. Them, Ohio State, Texas, all have good arguments there. My breakout player to watch for them is Kendra Harrison, true freshman, 6'7", 250 already. They've been featuring him in some of the fall camp videos. Like, he gets up and speaks in front of the team. They've had him do that. This might be a dude who, like, Jamari Johnson is the clear tight end 1, Louisville transfer from 2 years ago, played on the team quite a bit last year behind Sadiq. Like, Kendra Harrison really might be the tight end 2 by the season's end, and maybe not even the season's end, like midway through the season. I think he's that special. They have Olish from Penn State. They have Dixon from Clemson, a couple transfers at that tight end spot as well. But I think Harrison might be that special. The O-line is probably the only question mark. The secondary is ridiculously good. The front 4, we all know about it. Mateo, Tatum Tuioti, Bear Alexander, like all those guys, Amari Washington, all these guys who could have been first-round picks, by the way. Mateo and Amari Washington were projected first-round picks, and they're back. I'm kind of getting the vibe of Ohio State from 2 years ago when they had Captain Jack Sawyer, and JT Tuimoloau on that D-line. They had returned for their senior years after kind of an unsuccessful, in their eyes, previous year. And they ended up leading the team. Certainly the defense led Ohio State to that national title. I kind of feel like that might be the same way with Oregon, because we saw Oregon struggle big time on offense in big games last year. So their defense might need to carry them in the big games like it did in the Orange Bowl. Remember, Oregon had 16 points in that Orange Bowl game until the last minute of the game. The defense carried them in that game, right? And then things certainly fell apart again offensively against Texas Tech. So we'll see. If Oregon needs to get better at the O-line spot and at the quarterback spot, no question in the biggest games. But the D is going to carry them. Chris Hampton, longtime DB coach, DC. I think he'll be just fine. Drew Maringer, you hear Dante Moore speak super highly of him, calls him a genius and a scientist. Like he's extremely well respected within that building. I think you'll be just fine. It is a bummer to lose Will Stein and Tosh Luboy. It was particularly a bummer. I've ranted on this 100 times. The timing of it all. If you just move the portal to past spring ball, none of that happens. January Madness does not happen. December Madness does not happen in the sport. So let's get someone in charge. Maybe that's Saban. Maybe that's the president. Let's get someone in charge to move that spring portal window to be a thing, please, so that Will Stein doesn't have to fly to Kentucky to do press conferences. He doesn't have to fly to South Bend to recruit Kenny Minchie. Like, he just gets to prepare for Indiana in the national semifinal. Let's make that happen. Could talk forever about Oregon, obviously. The other guy I think is kind of a guy to watch. Everyone knows Brandon Finney. Everyone knows all the receivers, all the skill. Dylan Rail, the backup. I would say their 5-star recruit, number 4 player in America, Emmanuel Iheanacho, on the O-line. So you got Poncho at center. You got Dave Iuli at one of the guard spots. You got Fox Crater, Evergreen High School, Vancouver, Washington. Shout out to Clark County. Probably at left tackle. You got Janoris Wilson there. You got Bennett, the Yale transfer. So some depth pieces there. But if you have to play a freshman, this guy's already I think 350-ish. True freshman, 5-star recruit. He actually might play, so he could make an impact right away as a true freshman. Let's see how far in, man. Oh my gosh, I'm 11 minutes in. Okay, I need to try to pick this up if I can. That was my number 2 team in the country. Let's see if I can keep it moving a little bit more. Number 3, Miami. I think Mensa's my second favorite quarterback in the sport behind Trinidad. Cooper Marquette, really good receiver for Mensa at Duke last year, made a million sick catches. Go back and watch the ACC title game. He balled out in that game. You got those 2 dudes plus Mark Fletcher plus Malachi Toney. That's a nasty offense. And again, I've said it before. I do think Carson Beck was extremely limited in terms of how far he could throw the ball down the field last year because of that insanely nasty hit he took in the SEC title game against Texas in 24. I think that really limited how far he could push the ball downfield last year. I think Miami knew that. I know everyone was making fun of Cristobal and Shannon Dawson for playing conservative. I think Beck actually just couldn't really throw the ball downfield that well. How many times, tell me, how many times do you think Miami threw the ball 30 yards downfield last year? It felt like never until they had to do it against Indiana. They tried a couple times. Game ended in a pick six, or a pick, not a pick six. So I think it's actually a pretty big upgrade at QB this year because I think Mensa's that great, and I also think that he'll just be able to throw the ball downfield. And by the way, I think Beck at full strength can make all the throws. Okay, but he wasn't at full strength last year. He was coming off surgery. So I think Mensa's a pretty big upgrade at QB. Georgia at 4. Love Gunnar Stockton, just insanely competitive. He's got the running back face mask, the visor, that throw against Tennessee in Neyland last year to win it on that 4th, or send it into overtime on that 4th and 8. Georgia probably should have lost that game, and then Stockton makes that unbelievable throw to, I think it was London Humphreys down the right sideline. And Neyland's just September 13th, folks, Joey Aguilar was going to win the Heisman. And then Gunnar Stockton happened, and Humphreys happened, and then they win it in overtime. Their offense was not the problem last year. A little weird that they didn't have a bunch of great running backs. I think they had Frazier last year, but I have to go and see what their running back spot looks like again this year. But my main stat for them, they ranked dead last in the SEC in sacks last year. That's crazy. A Kirby Smart defense dead last in the SEC in sacks. Love KJ Bolden, the safety. Love Ellis Robinson, the corner. He learned the hard way against Tennessee last year, but he's a really good player. I just can't get it out of my head just how great Georgia was against Texas and Athens in November last year. They were so good in that game. And again, make fun of the Texas O-line all you want, and they certainly weren't good enough. But Georgia was so good on defense last year in that game. Listen, the Georgia defense was pretty damn good outside of the 2 Ole Miss games and the Tennessee game. I went back and looked at their schedule. They gave up 41 to Tennessee in that crazy game in Neyland where Joey Aguilar's just throwing jump balls to Chris Brizell, and there's no answer for it. And then Trinidad happened. But besides that, like it was a defense that played pretty dang well. Obviously, they won the SEC. They smothered Alabama, but in the SEC title game in the rematch. But it just wasn't good enough in the big moments in the postseason, especially when Trinidad was just doing what he did. And I thought they played pretty well in that game. I think Trinidad was just that special. So maybe that was just the case where they ran into an uber hot quarterback. And obviously they beat them round one and with their offense scoring 43. So I have all the faith in the world in Stockton. I think you just need to see their front seven. As crazy as that sounds for a Kirby Smart coach team, you just want to see their front seven feel a little more Georgia-ish, a little more kind of typical Georgia. But when I watch, like they're still king of the SEC. I know they lost to an SEC team last year, but they've won the SEC title I think 2 years in a row. When they play Texas, they've smothered Texas now a couple times in a row. Very narrow win in overtime in the SEC title game, but 2 years ago in Austin was at that game, and then last year they really smothered them in Athens. So, if Texas is supposed to be the best team in the SEC this year, or right there at the top, they have Texas's number. So until Texas beats them, they don't play in the regular season, but until they beat them, I think I just tip my hat to Georgia based on results in the recent meetings, and I would say I have Georgia in front of them. Number 5, I do have Texas. Skill is great. Arch is great. Program is great. Can the O-line get better? Brandon Harris, the GM, and Sark, the head coach, totally whiffed in the portal last year. They had Alex Harkey nearby at Texas State. He ends up going to Oregon. He was Oregon starting right tackle a year ago. They just really whiffed in the portal on the O-line last year. Trevor Goosby's back, good player at left tackle. Cole Hudson, reportedly, again, if that 5x5 thing actually works out again, it's college football is crazy. We don't know who's eligible or who's not, seriously, but Cole Hudson might end up 48 games started. He might end up coming back and playing for them this year. They just need to be better on offense at the offensive line spot. Again, I've said it before on a bunch of pods. You guys who actually listen to me are probably sick of hearing it by now. But when San Jose State was teeing off on their O-line, I knew something was wrong. Got a lot better in the Red River game. And Arch played really well down the stretch of the season. Vastly outplayed Diego Pavia, vastly outplayed John Matier, vastly outplayed Bryce Underwood, and all of those in victories. Vastly outplayed Marcel Reed in a victory on Thanksgiving against an undefeated A&M team who had a pretty damn good defense. Arch was really damn good towards the end of the year, and the O-line got a little better. I just want to see them be able to run the ball and not just run it with Arch, because we know he's fully capable of that, and he's rescued them many times doing that. But turning the ball around and handing it to Raleek Brown and Hollywood Smothers, these two superstars who have transferred in, let's see. You don't even have to be, Deontay Foreman level, but let's just see some physical runs out of a team that kind of, quite frankly, has lacked that physicality just a bit. They played Ohio State a couple years ago in the national semifinal. That was Sark's best team. They were so good on defense and really good on offense, and Quinn was a great timing passer, and they were down 21-14 late, ball on the 3, and just couldn't punch it in to tie it at 21. Instead, Jack Sawyer with the strip sack of Quinn and goes the other way with it. But if they were able to just kind of run the ball there and run it in, that's a tie game with a minute and a half left and anything happens. So you just got to be able to run the ball a little bit more. I also do think, I wrote it down, 90th in the country in rush yards per game last year, 137. It's just not good enough. I also do think, and I'll show you their schedule real quick. Texas State, shout out to G.J. Kinney and the Bobcats, coming into DKR to open things up Labor Day weekend. Week 2, Ohio State, cheapest get-in ticket right now, $534. That place is going to be a little charged up. UTSA, shout out to Jeff Traylor. Shout out to the G6, coming in September 19th. Then you're at Tennessee September 26th. That is going to be a crazy game, not only because Tennessee is Tennessee with a really good offense and an insane home field. Peyton Manning should be sidelined. Pretty sure he lives in Nashville or maybe nearby Knoxville, and he'll be there. You can bet your bottom dollar that. Then the Red River game. Then Florida with Summerall, who's a character. Ole Miss, Trinidad at home. Then Mississippi State. Then at Missouri, at LSU, Arkansas, at A&M. It's not an easy schedule. You don't play Georgia or Bama, but it's still not an easy schedule. You're at LSU, you're at A&M, you're at Tennessee, you got Oklahoma, you got Trinidad and Ole Miss. I mean, it's just this. At Missouri is an easier game. This is life in the SEC, man. And oh, by the way, you have Ohio State in the non-con. Like, I think we learned last year if Texas hadn't played Ohio State in the non-con, they would have been in the college football playoff. They'd scheduled a third cupcake a la Indiana. If you're a voter, man, just please recognize that. Like, if Texas does lose to Ohio State, or hell, if they beat Ohio State but they lose 3 times in the regular season, but they're like trending up and looking like a good 10-3 team, put them in the playoff. I don't think their O-line was good enough last year, and their secondary got injured. Their defense in general, but especially the secondary, wasn't good enough last year to go far in the playoff. But I do think a 3-loss Texas team, depending on the circumstances, would be into the playoff. I certainly would have had them there a year ago. Okay. Number 6, Notre Dame. Let's see how I'm doing timing-wise. Oh, my gosh. All right, 20 minutes in already. Number 6, Notre Dame. I got to tell you, I'm slowly buying in. I'm slowly buying into Notre Dame. I don't love that the reason that most people love them is their schedule, because their schedule is kind of a joke. They do play Miami, obviously great team. Their other 2 tough games are BYU and SMU, who may or may not be a top 25 level team this year. The schedule's a joke, man. Now, they play Wisconsin in Lambeau the first weekend of the year, which is just kind of a funny game with plenty of juice. Obviously, there will be a ton of Wisconsin fans there. Wisconsin was just a dead offense last year, and I mean an absolutely dead offense. Really good run defense, but a dead offense. So I would imagine I would take Notre Dame to win that game big, honestly. I mean, who knows? Maybe Wisconsin improves, but I would take them to win that game big. By the way, Billy Edwards Jr., former Wisconsin QB, is now the starting QB at UNC. Who is Wake Forest's QB? I was thinking about this because Thomas Castellanos is reportedly, potentially, going to sign for his final year of college football with Texas Tech, who obviously has a fantastic starting QB in Will Hammond. I'm like, why would he do that? I put that out on Twitter the other day. Oh, my God. Texas Tech fans. Like, I don't interact with people on the internet much. I don't think I interacted with any of them, or maybe I sent one of them back a message. My gosh, they came for me. They absolutely came for me. And now there were some good points brought up. Baron Morton played through a broken leg last year. I pounded the table and said that a bunch. Obviously, Will tore his ACL in October. They've had to use a lot of different quarterbacks over the last couple of years. They keep getting hurt. So I get it. You want Castellanos as an insurance policy. But if you're Castellanos, and again, who knows? I mean, Cody Campbell's got billionaire money. That oil money is different. Drill, baby, drill. So maybe that's why they got him. Maybe, I mean, the answer to a lot of questions in life usually comes down to money. But if you're Castellanos and you want to play, like, why wouldn't you just go to a different ACC school? I mean, I guess Florida State didn't want you, but, like, go, which is crazy because you beat Alabama last year, but then I know things went really sideways after that. But I don't know, go play at Wake or something. I looked up Wake Forest's QB situation. You got a guess for me? Gio Lopez, former North Carolina QB, is going to be Wake starter this year for Jake Dickert. Anyways, that got way off track. Back to Notre Dame. CJ Carr, plus 700 to win the Heisman. Golden Domers, first team in modern NFL history to have the same 2 running backs selected, 1-2 in the same draft. Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price. Love those guys. Love was maybe the best player in the sport last year, certainly one of them. I do like CJ Carr. The schedule's insanely easy. I think the reason I'm buying in, man, because they have a lot back on defense. Drake Bowen, who's the team captain, the linebacker is back, and Leonard Moore is back. They got a couple good DBs who are back, along with Bowen. And Coach Freeman, I watched one of his pressers. He is raving about the D-line. Like, he's stoked on the D-line, you can tell. I just feel like if I could play for anyone in college football right now, it would probably either be Marcus Freeman or Dan Lanning. Like, those guys are just vibes. They're football guys. They're young, energetic. They're not stiff or stale. Like, I think they're just they're in their prime, man. Like, I don't know how else to say it. They're in their, like, coaching, enthusiasm prime, both hovering around 40. And I just think Freeman, I know they'd probably have a chip on their shoulder regardless, but the fact that they didn't make the playoff last year and they have a really easy schedule this year, I'm buying in, man. I'm buying in. I don't know. I mean, they were just in the national title game 2 years ago with Riley Leonard, great college player. So did they make it all the way back there? I don't know. Riley Leonard was great, but they might make a big time run, and I don't think they're overrated at 6 where I have them. I do not think they're overrated. I think they're as good as any team. So I'm buying in, man. I'm buying in on Marcus Freeman in the D line, and Lloyd's grandson there at QB. Ohio State, I have at 7. Don't for the life of me understand how they're the preseason #1 team when you lose 8 defensive starters. Caleb Downs was maybe the best player in college football last year, not named Fernando Mendoza. People love the Cowboys this year. I mean, the Cowboys were the Cowboys last year, right? They're a good offense, terrible defense. People suddenly love the Cowboys as dark horse Super Bowl contenders basically because they drafted Caleb Downs. He was that special. Still is that special, okay? But and then you got Arvell Reese on the Giants. You got Caden McDonald who left. You got all these really, really good players from last year's team move on from the defense. And obviously, it's Ohio State. They still recruit with the best of them in the Midwest and in the South. Their offense was so bad in the biggest moments last year that I need to see more from it to feel really confident in having them as a national title contender. That defense should have won a national title last year. It's kind of like the Texans in the in the NFL. It's like that defense was probably the best defense in the sport along with the Seahawks last year. Like they probably should have at least made the Super Bowl, and then CJ Carr threw 19 interceptions in that playoff game. It was kind of like that with Sayan and the offense. It was like, oh, man, can you guys just score 14 points against Indiana and you win? Can you just score 14 or 17 against Miami and not throw a pick 6 and you win? Bo Jackson will be good running back. Sayan was accurate last year. I want to say like 77% of his passes, I think, was one of the all-time high marks for an Ohio State QB and a QB in general. And I respect that, but like when you watch the Ohio State offense, you were never really scared of it. Maybe you were scared of Jeremiah Smith, but you weren't scared of the offense. You weren't scared of them like taking the top off of you. And they were capable of doing that. I mean, Sam made a big time deep throw against UW. But a lot of the throws that he made last year were just underneath easy shots. Like they scored on a 4th down, I think, against UW on a drag route where I think he threw the ball behind the line of scrimmage to Jeremiah Smith. Like it was a lot of non-explosives, and Indiana obviously was all over that. And they needed to run the ball for like a yard a couple times against Indiana. Couldn't do it in the Big Ten title game. So I don't know if it's the O-line. Someone who played can really break down why it wasn't good enough, but I don't know if it's the O-line. I don't know if it's the play calling, but it just wasn't a good enough product offensively last year. New OC, Arthur Smith. By the way, Brian Hartline, legendary Buckeye, legendary coach at the receiver spot and recruiter. He's the head coach at South Florida now. He's obviously a great coach. Just for whatever reason, it wasn't put together on offense last year. So in comes Arthur Smith, and you see how that goes. Okay, let's try to keep this moving a bit faster. Number 8, Ole Miss. Best player in college football for my money is Trinidad Chambliss. I would take him number 1 in a college football-style draft. Kewan Lacey, amazing running back, transferred over from Missouri, close to 2,000 rushing yards a year ago. I thought he was actually not the key to their team. I think that was Trinidad, but basically just as much or close to as much of as a key to their offense because his ground game just basically made everyone respect the run, and then Trinidad could take off with it. Obviously, you lose Charlie Weiss Jr. and Lane to LSU. Pete Golding steps in. We'll see about Ole Miss. I know a lot of people are predicting them to fall, but as long as you have Trinidad and Lacey and a good coach in Golding, who's the DC, I will say that Ole Miss is still a top 10 team. Oklahoma, John Matier, Isaiah Satania, Parker Livingston, all those dudes back on defense. Tate Sandell, Mr. Short Shorts, your Groza winner, he is back. Running back position, bit of a mystery. I think they still have Blaylock back. But it was so weird when Jaden Knott transferred there last year. And I went to an OU game in Norman, the Illinois State game. Got in for free because SeatGeek butchered my ticket situation. And didn't really see Jaden Knott. Cal transfer, who's like the prized running back, arguably, of the transfer portal last year. That was a weird situation. LSU at 10. Sam Levitt, Charlie Weiss Jr. I think it might be a little bumpy early, but it'll get better late with Lane. Coach O, seeing him on the sidelines, bringing the swag all the way back. And my big thing on LSU with Blake Baker as the DC, highest paid DC in the sport, they actually had a pretty elite defense last year for the first half of the season until the bottom fell out. But, like, you remember Brian Kelly was answering questions in every press conference, like, why is the offense not better? Like, their offense kind of famously couldn't score more than 20 points in a game for a while there. And Brian Kelly kept freaking out at reporters who kept asking him. Turns out those reporters were right. Their offense with Garrett Nussmeier just wasn't good enough. And Nussmeier is obviously a talented player, good player, but it's whatever happened last year on the field, their offense wasn't good enough. And but their defense is keeping them every game. Whit Weeks, the Weeks bros last year. Whit Weeks is back. Ty Benefield, this kid from Boise State, elite safety, and then they got Prince from Ole Miss. So I think those guys with Blake Baker, like, I think their defense is going to be nasty again. And it'll be just a matter of Levitt, who is a competitive dude, competitive as hell, great trash talker, called a lot of his high school football and basketball games. Obviously, everyone knows what he did at Arizona State before he got hurt last year. Really good running threat. Just be careful, Sam. Please don't take too many big hits because those are some big dudes in the SEC, much bigger than the Big 12. Alabama, I do think no expectations kind of helps. Like, feel like people are finally off of Alabama. Like, yeah, dude, it's just not going to happen. They're not going to get back to the Saban level. It's, DeBoer, like, good coach, really good QB whisperer, blah, 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 but it's just not really happening. I do kind of feel like that's the vibe of Alabama, almost like a forgotten about team, which is crazy to say, fresh off of 6 Saban natties in Tuscaloosa, 7 overall for Saban. Like, they're kind of a forgotten about team right now. Keelan Russell's the starter. I believe he was the QB at Duncanville when DeCorian was there. High school football is just different in the state of Texas, particularly Dallas. Run the damn ball would be my phrase that come to my mind. DeBoer's attack finished 15th out of 16 SEC teams in rushing, 104 yards per game, and 117th in the FBS, which is like the exact opposite of the Nick Saban approach, which is run the damn ball. I will say that approach obviously is true to who DeBoer is. He's not being himself. Like, everyone, whenever you take over for the man, is like, yeah, you just be yourself. You got to be yourself. Don't try to repeat what the man is doing or did. DeBoer is being himself. It just didn't quite work the way that Bama fans would have wanted it to. But really impressive win in the playoff, by the way. I mean, it was kind of a banged-up Bama team. You go to Norman. Environment was insane. And you win against a really good defense. R. Mason Thomas, Ween, Kip Lewis, Bowen Bros, obviously legendary defensive mind, Brent Venables. Go in there and score a lot of points and win. That was a great performance. So this Bama team is capable. They're capable, but you got to run the ball better, I think would be my 2 cents there. Excited to see Ryan Coleman-Williams back on track. He battled concussion issues last year. He completely baptized the Georgia defense 2 years ago as a true freshman. It's like a 17, 18-year-old kid. So we all know that he can be as good as there is in CFB if he gets healthy. Finally, I'm going to give you number 12, ironically, 12th man, Texas A&M, 11-0 last year before Texas totally curb stomped them on Thanksgiving weekend. It was a pressure-packed game for Arch and for Sark, and boy, did they deliver on a national stage in Austin, completely dominating A&M in the second half of that game. And then the playoff game was so weird, like 3 points at home. That is just a dud, man. And Marcel Reed was so good all year. And like their team, and I get it, everyone wants to make fun of their schedule. They didn't play the top half of the SEC teams basically until they played Texas, which is valid. They did not play like any of the good SEC teams until Texas. That is valid. But even still, Marcel Reed, nasty dual threat guy, gave LSU fits. Like, he's a really good dual threat QB, like the exact type of college QB you want. And, Elko's dialing up the defense. Clearly did a great job against Miami to hold them to 10. They just couldn't do anything on offense. So it's just a weird ending to what was on pace to be their best season in school history. And then it was just a weird dud of an ending. But I'll still take A&M at 12. My 2 off-the-radar teams for you, and I'm going like really off the radar, not just like, could be there, are UCLA and Michigan. I feel like no one's talking about UCLA. They had that random mini resurgence under Jerry Neuheisel last year, beat Penn State, won 3 straight games before the bottom fell out again after the Deshaun Foster disaster. Big shout out to Jerry Neuheisel for cleaning that up. Bob Chesney just passes the vibe check. Good-looking dude, ran an amazing program at JMU. Saw them in person at Texas State last year. Shout out to the Fun Belt. Obviously, they played pretty well at Autzen. Got body slammed in the first half, but ended up putting up, I think, 4 second-half touchdowns at Autzen. And again, it was a blowout of a game, but even still, to put up 28.5 on Oregon on the road as JMU, like that's a good effort. Hires Derek Carr. He put out some pictures on social media of him with like Bill Simmons and some Hollywood dudes in the back of a steakhouse somewhere in LA, presumably. So, like, he's passing the vibe check, and I think it's an uphill battle at UCLA. It's a basketball school and an Olympics sports school, but he's passing the vibe check, and he's got Nico, and now Derek Carr, and then Michigan, man. I love the Kyle Whittingham hire. You clean up the previous disaster hire. You bring in a grown man who knows how to play a physical brand of football. 21 years at Utah, takes over for Urban Meyer, beat Nick Saban famously back in the day in the Sugar Bowl. Just ran an amazing program at Utah. They were always a tough out. If they ever had like an elite quarterback, they really could have done things big time at the national level. Remember that Ohio State Rose Bowl that they played? That was an iconic Rose Bowl game. Jackson Smith and Jigba went berserk in that game. They almost beat Ohio State in that game. I think Rising got hurt again, but that was a crazy game. And obviously, they blew out USC in that Pac-12 title game back in the day. I think that was 22 with the Caleb Williams team, 22 or 24. And so with Kyle Whittingham's just a unmistakably great coach, physical brand of football. If he can just get Bryce Underwood to play average at QB in terms of pushing the ball down the field, and I never grade these true freshman QBs. That's such a hard spot, man, a true freshman QB, let alone at Michigan, let alone with what your coach was doing last year, let alone with the level of competition you faced, Oklahoma, Ohio State, etc. That was such a tough spot for Bryce Underwood last year. So I know everyone wants to struggle. I think he went like 6 games in the middle of the season without a touchdown pass, but I give him a pass for all that. Like I think he deserves a clean slate. And they got a couple really good running backs. Savion Hyder, I think is his name, 5-star. So it's Michigan. They always have a bunch of 5-star running backs, but those are kind of my off the radar teams. So I think Michigan's not terribly off the radar, but I do think no one's talking about them for the most part. So wouldn't be surprised if Michigan and UCLA, record-wise UCLA, it's an uphill battle in the Big Ten, but I think those teams will be better than they were last year, and you'll see like real on-field improvements from both those teams. So there you go. There's my top 12 and a couple extra teams to watch. I went way too long on that, but hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time on the pod.